South China Morning Post, 16th of March 2023, China claims that the EU must not assist the US in undermining the global trade system. China has been abusing the international trade system, taking from every country and wrecking the world economy. The Biden administration has proposed a tentative answer amid disagreements between the United States and the European Union regarding the Inflation Reduction Act. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen recently advocated for the U.S. and EU to establish critical minerals free trade agreements that would enable Europe to qualify as a free trade partner in an interview. According to reports, the White House is willing to discuss the idea with Japan and the UK. The first goal of the Biden administration's action is to allay fears in Europe and its friends in Asia. Some have demanded that the EU take the US to the World Trade Organization because they claim the new law discriminates against their businesses in violation of international laws. According to the act, a portion of the minerals used to make the batteries that electric power vehicles must originate from nations with which the US has free trade agreements for them to qualify for the entire tax credit. The White House anticipates that businesses from these nations would be eligible for the subsidies under the plan by concluding tightly concentrated trade agreements on essential minerals. Creating a critical minerals buyers club with allies that revolve around the U.S. is the other problem that the Biden administration hopes to address with the plan. The White House has long sought to reorganize international supply chains, in particular industries, to advance U.S. interests best. Washington is currently attempting to divert global supply chains away from China. The plan appears to be a good deal for Washington, but the multilateral trading system and the EU hardly share this opinion. Members of the WTO are allowed to reach trade agreements. However, for these agreements to be considered free trade deals, specific requirements must be fulfilled, which China has been shunning. A free trade area is defined as a group of two or more customs territories in which duties and other restrictive regulations of commerce, except, where necessary, those permitted under Articles 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 20, are eliminated on substantially all the trade between the constituent territories in products originating in such territories. Article 24 of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, an annex to the WTO agreements. Significantly, all of commerce is the key phrase. Sectoral agreements, such as the one that Janet Yellen has suggested on critical minerals, do not qualify as a free trade area, according to E. Numanok, a fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. Selling horse meat as steak is analogous to promoting restricted trade deals as free trade agreements. Biden's action breaks the WTO's fundamental tenet against discrimination. Members of the principle must regard one another reasonably. Whatever a WTO member does, whether it is favorable or not, for one or more members, it should also do for the other members. A member is not permitted to favor certain business partners over others. Making its subsidies only accessible to companies from nations with a free trade agreement with the U.S. discriminates against other members without a free trade deal. Encouraging other nations to do the same could start the process of deconstructing the multilateral trading system. More minor trade agreements may soon increase and dominate the global trade landscape. A similar pattern might cause the global trading system to disintegrate. Additionally, favoritism towards some members while excluding others is a surefire method to incite resentment among the victims of discrimination. As a result, the organization would fracture and cause conflict among its members. EU should cut ties with China if it wants to succeed. The Biden administration is making the EU a collaborator in the demise of the WTO by enlisting its support. Will the EU support Washington's objectives? The EU views itself as a supporter of multilateralism and free trade in the USA's free trade model. If it is concerned about maintaining its good name, it will be challenging to argue against joining the US. What the EU perceives as a protectionist trade policy cannot transform into a deal compliant with WTO standards without amendments to the Inflation Reduction Act. The U.S. proposal's benefits to the EU won't alter the legislation's overall structure. The interests of the remaining 160 or so WTO members not included in the plan will undoubtedly raise some concerns. Regardless of the EU's involvement, a protectionist trade policy will exist. Moreover, the EU has much to gain from maintaining the economic system. The WTO has been highly beneficial to it. A robust multilateral trading system with a secure and predictable environment is essential for success. Accepting the White House's agreement would be equivalent to the EU's fiscal collapse. The U.S. has repeatedly been willing to sacrifice the multilateral trading system to advance its political or strategic goals. It repeatedly declined, on the basis of national security, to comply with unfavorable rulings by the WTO panels and appealed them. In 2019, it paralyzed the WTO's appellate body. Its most recent action strikes at the very foundation of the WTO. All of this suggests that, despite its claimed dedication to the non-operational WTO, the White House is resolved to return the world to the rule of the law. If the EU and other U.S. allies know which side their bread is buttered on, that is the issue.